Welcome to the CowCast by Willard Jones Real Estate. In this weekly podcast, we explore the most hard-hitting commercial real estate stories, focusing on those that affect us, all of us, real estate professionals, executives, investors, friends, and fans. We'll also discuss some updates and features of our own, including new spaces, updates, tours, and photos. Plus, we'll always sprinkle in something fun to start your weekend off right. All stories and sources are linked in the show notes. So settle in, grab some Green River, and enjoy this week's CowCast. Our first story comes to us from Crain's Chicago Business, which reported with an air of cautious optimism that the office market may be back in business, so to speak. Q4 2021 ended on a high note, and for the first time in nearly 2 years, companies are moving into new offices faster than they're moving out. Workspace needs are still up in the air, and over 3.6 million square feet of offices are still under construction. So between those two variables, there's much ado about, well, everything. The experts here at Willard Jones have this to say about the current state of the market. Quote, "Once we learn to live with the virus as a regular part of life, we will then settle into the hybrid work routine. Some may choose to work 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. Others will come in just for meetings, perhaps when special projects are ongoing, or during busy times each year, such as tax season for accountants or summer for event coordinators. Slowly but surely, the attendance numbers will creep up over time. As soon as a coworker who has been working predominantly from home witnesses another who has been going in 4 or 5 times per week get a promotion, this fear of missing out might encourage others to come in more regularly." Unquote. Check out the show notes for Willard Jones' complete predictions for 2022, and let us know what you think. Is it time to retire our work-from-home sweatpants? Or is it finally time to break out the slacks? Here's hoping they still fit. Our next story is from BizNow, which reported that not only has leasing activity been rising in Chicago, that activity is taking place in the form of relocations and expansions rather than just renewals. This is a sharp contrast to 2020, during which time nearly half of all office transactions were renewals rather than expansions, simply because companies had no idea what the future would hold. Early 2021 saw relocations into higher quality space, unsurprising given the push for employees to return to the office in lieu of the comforts of home. But there's more nuance yet. Chicago's tenant improvement allowances actually dropped in Q4 to around $80 per square foot per year. Instead of higher TIAs and rent concessions, the biggest draw for tenants is a highly responsive management who show an interest in providing a hospitable, safe, comfortable, and convenient work environment. Again, we're not just talking about fancy wood flooring and accent walls, though of course those help. We're talking about advanced air filtration systems, shared amenities, and building-wide advancements that reflect a workforce which values mental and physical health over slightly more ergonomically correct desk chairs. Speaking of improvements, remember how we mentioned that law firms have become the litmus test for the office market? Well, once again, Big Law has provided a tentative roadmap for the future of the professional services workplace. Reuters reported that although concessions and improvements are up, meditation rooms and koi ponds aren't enough to get lawyers back into the office. One solution has been to give each attorney a standard-size individual office, enabling them to have a personal space and client privacy. Large collaborative spaces and white-labeled offices allow those on a hybrid work schedule to reserve workstations for the day on an as-needed basis. Secretaries and support staff aren't thrust into open areas. Rather, they're being afforded enclosed units with filtered air. These are practical improvements to the office, not just fancy additions that may look pretty but go untouched and unappreciated. Can we assume that professional service firms will likely never be at full capacity, at least not for several years? If so, should we embrace Big Law's aforementioned solution? That is, should we turn the workplace into its own hybrid flex workspace, with several permanent private offices for staff who are necessarily on site every day, and several offices and collaboration spaces for those who prefer to work from home a few days a week? As they say, time may change the office, but we can't trace time. Or something like that. This is the point in the CowCast where we share some lighthearted entertainment, partly for our own sanity, but also for your pure enjoyment. To start us off, we have a segment we like to call On This Week in History. On January 18th, 1896, the University of Iowa invited the University of Chicago to join them for the first ever 5-on-5 college basketball game. Only 500 people were able to spectate due to seating capacity constraints, but by all accounts, it was a heck of a game. The Chicago Maroons ended up winning 15-12, marking modern college basketball's first ever win. Our last segment is called Just for Kicks. In a world with so much doom and gloom, we like to end your week with something uplifting. This week, we'd like to shout out the organization called Support Staff, a local nonprofit that connects hospitality workers with mental health care. They also have a storefront in Humboldt Park called People Over Profit, which offers free clothing and food to those in need. The organization, which also hosts a podcast discussing the mental health impacts of the hospitality industry, especially during the pandemic, consists of experienced bartenders, cooks, servers, writers, and professionals, each of whom have experienced firsthand how stressful and emotionally exhausting the industry can be. Much of their work is aimed at discovering and promoting mental health and wellness resources for people of color and other marginalized communities. You can check out these resources, donate, and contribute to Support Staff at pleasehustleresponsibly.org. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's CowCast. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter for daily Willard Jones content. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WillardJonesCRE, and be sure to leave us a positive review on Spotify and Apple Music. If you're currently listening to this at home, let us help you find an office where you can listen to us on company time. Contact us at 312-263-8787 and at willardjones.com. Have a great weekend and stay safe. The CowCast is produced by Willard Jones Real Estate and is narrated by Amanda Friedlander. Views and ideas shared in this podcast are our own and are not representative of the publications mentioned in the podcast. Music and sound effects by freesound.org. Sources and links are located in the show notes.